All right. Welcome. I hate to break up good networking, but I want to welcome you today to the What Oregon Business Will Face in 23 Salem Chamber Forum Lunch. My name is Alan Rasmussen. I represent the third generation at Modern Building Systems and represent this organization as the president-elect. And it's with great honor that I get to serve in that capacity to bring business success to this community, which makes a great place for people to live, work, and play. I would like to welcome some of my fellow teammates, the Salem Chamber Board of Directors, Julie Hoy, Katie Kostick, Ted Ferry, Quandre Robertson, Brandon Blair, Laura Dorn, Rich Duncan, Ryan Dempster, Katya Mendez, Kathy Gordon, Jeff Miller, Connor Wrighton, and Mike Herron. At this moment, I'd like to lead us in a moment of reflection and gratitude. We take this moment to pray or reflect each in our own way on our lives and on this moment. We are thankful for the meal before us, for the hands that prepared it, and those who served it. We are grateful for this day, for its blessings, its opportunities, and even for its challenges. May we lend each other strength and guidance as fellow leaders within the Salem community. May we be deeply driven to give our best, always, and be so courageous to rise to meet the challenges we face. Amen. At this time, I'd like to introduce Jasmine Mendoza to sing our national anthem. Jasmine is a 16-year-old junior at McNary High School and is joined today in support by her mother, Dana Mendoza.
Hello, everybody. As he said, I am Jasmine, and see so many beautiful faces out there, and it's lovely to see all of us coming together. Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rockets' red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
Wow, so I think we should just end there. I don't know that anyone on this table is going to outdo that performance. So I want to introduce those here at the head table with me today. We have Representative Raquel Moore-Green completing her last day of service as an Oregon State Representative today. Keynote presenter Angela Wihelms and TJ Sullivan representing our sponsor for today's forum, Hagen Hamilton Insurance. I'd also like to introduce some elected officials and dignitaries. We have Salem City Councilor Julie Hoy, Marion County Commissioner Kevin Cameron, President and CEO Jessica Howard of Chemeketa, Kaiser City Councilor Sorida Cross, and Turner Mayor Steve Horning, who did beat me in fantasy football this year, so. I'd also like to introduce, in attendance today, Salem Chamber past presidents, Bruce Anderson, TJ Sullivan, Barb Hake-Resch, Laura Dorn, Ryan Albritton, and Kathy Gordon. We'll give them a round of applause, please. So at this time, I'd like to present the January Spirit of Salem Award. Each month, the Salem Chamber has the privilege and honor to bestow the Spirit of Salem Award to one or more of Salem's most impactful leaders. Spirit of Salem Award recipients exhibit servant leadership in every facet of their work. Recipients are individuals or organizations who work tirelessly behind the scenes, day in and day out, to make Salem a special and inclusive place for everyone. Today, we have the privilege of recognizing one of Salem's most influential and impactful political leaders in our community, Raquel Moore-Green. Representative Raquel Moore-Green wrapped up her legislative service to Oregon residents today. As a new legislative body is being sworn in over at the state capitol, Raquel is the second of 4 children. She and her husband, James, have been married for 35 years. Proud parents of 2 daughters and 1 son, and they have been blessed with 12 grandchildren. Raquel has been very active in the Salem community for over 24 years. She served on the City of Salem Budget Committee for 6 years as a citizen of Ward 3, beginning in 2013. She is an active member of the Salem Area Chamber of Commerce, which we are greatly thankful for, and is a former Government Day Coordinator and First Citizen Event Coordinator for the Chamber. She is a member and former board member of the Salem City Club, and also is a member of SEDCOR. Raquel has worked with the Demunas Legal Clinic, is a member of the Daughters of the American Revolution, and a Marion County PCP, or Marion County Republican PCP. Raquel has an extensive work resume, including being a small business owner. She worked for heralded Oregon State Senator Jackie Winters, and then Representative, now Commissioner, Kevin Cameron in various roles. Experiences that she would bring with her to the state capitol. She was a development strategy coordinator for the YWCA from 2010 to 2011, and served as campaign manager for the United Way of the Mid-Willamette Valley from 1999 to 2004. Dick Withnell said about Raquel, "You can't outwork her." She worked with me on many projects through United Way, personal 501c projects, and published projects, some stressful initiatives that Raquel always had a cool demeanor with a cool head to have a goal-oriented outcome. She is the real deal. Commissioner Kevin Cameron stated, "I first met Raquel at Salem City Club. She had been serving our community in so many ways and for a very long period of time. We worked closely together from 2010 until the time she was sworn into House District 19 state representative position. And in all that time, she helped make me and others feel better in their roles as public servants. Raquel is a role model elected official working every day to serve others. She will certainly be missed in the legislature, but I know she will continue to be ever present in our community and with her family. She will use every bit of her time, talent, and treasure to serve others going forward. Leaders like Raquel are few and far between. Her body of work has expanded throughout politics, nonprofit service, and in orchestrating key community initiatives. Salem is a better place because of the years of service Raquel has blessed our community. The Salem business community recognizes her large heart and can-do attitude." Basically, that's a roundabout way of saying an awesome lady and an awesome servant leader. Raquel, will you please come forward and accept this recognition as a Spirit of Salem Award recipient?
I can't thank you enough, and I want you to know that I just merely reflect the community that I love so much. So thank you for this very, very, very special recognition. Thank you.
We wear a few hats here at the Chamber as we've had a few staffing transitions. So I'm your photographer, but I'm proud to introduce our forum sponsors today, and that's our friends at Hagen Hamilton Insurance Solutions. Solutions. It's why customers trust them, why people want to work with them, and why the community can always count on Hagen Hamilton Insurance Solutions. They deliver thoughtful, flexible, and innovative solutions to every challenge they come across as they seek to provide insurance security for clients throughout the Mid-Willamette Valley and beyond. Established more than a century ago in 1910, the Hagen Hamilton Insurance family is locally owned, family run, and an independent broker for your insurance needs. They have local offices spread out throughout the Pacific Northwest in the heart of wine country and are ready to help you and your business next. At Hagen Hamilton, they know that trust is earned, and they strive to earn it from you. That's why company representatives always tell the truth, are transparent and professional, follow through on their commitments, and act with integrity in everything they do. They believe in supporting the communities they serve and assisting clients with the complexities of, the complexities of insurance coverage for small, medium, and yes, large businesses. The company has been recognized by the Portland Business Journal as a best 100 companies to work for in Oregon. Over 100 years in business, over 50 insurance professionals, 5 Oregon offices, representing 20 unique insurance companies, 6 Spanish-speaking agents, and over 12,000 clients served in Oregon. A new face to the Hagen Hamilton family is a familiar face to the Salem Chamber. It is our own past president, T.J. Sullivan. Please help me in welcoming today's forum sponsor, Hagen Hamilton Insurance Solutions, represented today by Executive Agent T.J. Sullivan.
Well, thanks. It's been a hot minute since I've been up here with all of you. And after 2 years of me being up here, you were probably ready for a break. I'm sure in the 2 years that I was up here, I probably said something, probably said many things that offended you, which is why we put the footballs out. So it's a great photo op opportunity, Tom. If you would take those footballs and you feel free to throw them at me, and we'll count to on the count of 3. So grab the football and throw. This will make a great photo, but everybody's got to throw the football. Let's go. I know.
I don't know how good their
yeah.
aim is.
Their aim is really good. What could possibly go wrong? There you go. That's a good toss. 1, 2, 3. Nice.
I'm out. I'm blocking. Wow.
See, that was a lot of fun. I'm not gonna tell you who threw that one.
I know, I still have mine.
Yeah, good. We'll soak it in water first. All right. Well, thank you for that. I just want to take this moment to thank you corporately for many of you rallied around me and my family last year after my stroke, and I just want to thank you for that. I would thank you individually and personally, but I was on really good drugs, and I don't remember a lot of it. I vaguely remember my daughter trying to convince me there was a zombie apocalypse and I needed to get out of the hospital quickly. But I only think I remember that because she did that every time she came to see me. And I know you showed up because when I went back to the hospital later to thank the men and women who cared for me, one of the doctors in the middle of a conversation said, "Hey, can I ask you a question? What do you do?" And I looked at him, I said, "Well, what do you mean?" no, seriously, like, what do you do? Like, I haven't seen that many people from the community show up for one person. So what do you do? And I still was puzzled. And he said, are you the mayor? And I said, buddy, if I was the mayor, people would be coming to smother me with a pillow. And he goes, well, did you invent something? Maybe like the backhanded compliment? I don't know. And he's like, no. What do you do for a living? And I was like, I don't know, I'm going to let you down here, but I'm an insurance agent. And he looked at me and said, are you Ted Ferry? And I said, no, I wish I was Ted Ferry. His daughter can make free throws at crunch time in critical moments. So, but he did. The more he talked, it was a great feeling to hear somebody talk about a community rallying around somebody. And so I appreciate that. And I'd like to think, in the time up until that stroke, my modus operandi was I want to make Salem as good as possible for the people who live here. And not just, we've got to start with Salem, but then we've got to take it out to the whole state. Because I really believe Oregon is the best state to live in, and Salem is a great city. Otherwise, as Dick Withnell will tell you, you wouldn't live here if you didn't think this was a great place. And so if I got to live here, I'm going to make it as good as possible. And when I was marching down the parade or getting up early on a Saturday morning to help put up 75,000 Christmas lights in downtown Salem, it was because I have a love for this place and I have a love for you and what you do for our community. It means a lot. And that's why I'm excited to be part of the team that's coming, bringing Hagen Hamilton to Salem. Because like Tom said, we are one of the biggest and best insurance agencies in the state. But with now 6 locations, over 60 employees, and being recognized as one of the top 100 places to work in Oregon, we are also an impressive business. And so I'm excited to bring, because if we're going to change Oregon, we got to change Salem first. And the way that you change Salem is by changing the ratio of public to private. We need more private businesses coming to Oregon, and we need more private businesses coming to Salem. That's why Hagen Hamilton coming is such a big deal, because of the clout that we bring to the community. We've got an unbelievable team of people. I can't begin to tell you how excited I am to get to go to work every day with Chris McLaren, Mike's son. It's Chris and I have been friends for a long time, so getting up and getting to go to work with your friends is great. But we have some unbelievable insurance professionals. Gary Eastland, who couldn't be here today, is really one of the all-time great insurance agents in the state of Oregon. When the wine industry was getting going in Oregon, Gary recognized that there was a shortfall in insurance and wineries. They didn't have the right coverage in place, so he went and worked with the insurance companies to put together the right coverage for wineries. And that's why today we insure over 90% of all the wineries in Oregon. And we've got Ryan Hartzell, who couldn't be here today. Ryan is sought out by insurance agents across the country for his knowledge about how to insure banks, which is an intricate policy to put together. And it's the reason why most of the banks in Salem are clients of ours, and the ones that aren't will soon be clients of ours. And so I look forward to working with you. John Fairbanks, who is here today, is a former stud on the Oregon State Beaver defense. So you Beaver fans will want to connect with John and talk about why Coach Pettibone ran the wishbone all the time. And you Duck fans, you could invite him in to talk a little smack to him, but I would warn you, he's got a 6'8", 250-pound son that he could sick on you. So just keep that in mind. Katie Adams is here with us today. Katie grew up on a farm in the Mid-Willamette Valley. She's got a college degree in an ag-related topic, and she worked on a ranch in Texas for 15 years. And I can tell you there's not a finer ag insurance agent in the valley than Katie. So we're lucky to have Katie as part of our team. Gail Moldovan is here, and Gail is sought out. She is a flood expert, and she is sought out by municipalities when they have questions on flood. And insurance agents seek her out to teach their agents about the intricacies of flood insurance. And so that's an important person to have in your office and knowledge to have, because the rules are changing with flood insurance, and people are getting soaked right now with their, that's a good, I can literally hear my kids rolling their eyes right now. But we have a great team. A lot of you saw our article in the 503 about the Paid Leave Act, and you contacted our employee benefits team to help with that transition. And our team went to work, and in spite of being in the middle of fourth quarter and having over 300 groups to renew, they went to work and they helped a lot of you get the holiday, the premium holiday until September. And so I was glad that we were able to help so many local businesses in that department. But we've got an amazing employee benefits team. And so with that, I get the honor of introducing Angela Wihelms, who joined Oregon Business and Industry as President and CEO in September of 2021. She brought a deep wealth of leadership experience to this critical role, advocating for Oregon's most economically impactful business industries. Most recently, she served as secretary to the University of Oregon's Board of Trustees, the first individual to be in that role, where she played a critical role in establishing the university's governing practices and operations. Her work with the university's board and leadership during the last several formative years played a role in enhancing the university's standing as one of our premier educational institutions. Prior to joining the university, Angela had a successful career in public policy. She served as chief of staff to the Oregon House co-speaker Bruce Hanna and held the same role in the House Minority Office. She has also spent time in Washington, D.C., serving as a press secretary to retired Congressman Greg Walden. Ms. Wilhelms was also of counsel in the Portland office of the law firm Dunn Carney, specializing in comprehensive government affairs services. And as a former candidate, I can tell you I really appreciate the work that OBI does in educating candidates on the importance of business in Oregon. You will not believe how many other states come to Oregon to try and cherry pick our businesses. And it's people like Angela that are standing in the way of those states recruiting key businesses out of Oregon to other states. I mean, Ohio sends their people to Oregon to recruit businesses from Oregon to Ohio. If you've ever been to Ohio, it's certainly not the terrain of Ohio that would lead people to want to move there. So, Angela, we thank you for the work that you do. Please help me in welcoming our presenter, Angela Wihelms.
Thank you. So there's probably a lot of reasons you don't want to go to Ohio, but that's not going to be the focus of my speech today. So first and foremost, I want to thank all of you for what you do every day. I mean, at OBI, we like to remind people that everything we want to accomplish as a society is predicated on the health of the private sector. You guys are the ones every day out there generating the activity that drives the economy and the wealth that allows individuals to have prosperity, that allows us to have strong philanthropic and community engagement, which you all know very well, and provides the tax revenue for necessary government services. It is the private sector that drives what we do, and you guys deserve a huge debt of gratitude for the work and the role that you play in that. I have to pause and thank these two people, and you know why, but TJ, thank you. You did not have to put yourself out there in the year that you had last year, but you did, and we are grateful for it. You made the landscape in the election cycle more competitive, and we are grateful for not just the work you do in this community, but for putting yourself out there as a state legislative candidate, which is hard work, time-consuming work, and often thankless work. So thank you for stepping up and doing that. You can pause. And at the risk of being a little cliche, I may get choked up when I do this, just because she started it, getting choked up earlier. But Raquel, I mean, thank you. I got to know Raquel when she was a baby staffer, when I was in the speaker's office, and she went to work for Representative Cameron. And I mean, she was extraordinary then. I was thrilled when she stepped in to the vacant seat, and you have served so well in Salem. The Capitol will miss you, whether they realize it yet or not, in the role that you have had, but I am so glad that you are going to continue your public service and that we get to continue working together. Raquel I watch a lot of political ads just because I'm a little bit of a sycophant in that way. And Raquel had the single best political ad that I think I've ever seen in 20 years of working in politics and campaigns. And it wasn't because it was fancy in its production. It wasn't because it had all the best like stock images with the, angry font stamped across it and the big deep like movie trailer narrator guy voiceover thing that we all know and predict. It was because Raquel stood and looked directly in the camera with conviction. And in one, it may not have been one take, but it was at least one shot, she nailed why her service was so important. And you can't do that. You cannot do that as a candidate unless you really know what you're doing, unless you really have the intellectual backing and the know-how and the knowledge of what you're talking about to say it with conviction and say it in a genuine way. And you could do that, and I have never seen anybody else do that. So thank you. Okay, I'll pull myself together. So some quick context about OBI. We are it's easiest to think of Oregon Business and Industry as your statewide chamber of commerce. So that's a role we play for the state of Oregon. We also are the State Manufacturing Association. We're the affiliate for the National Association of Manufacturers, and we're the affiliate for the National Retail Federation. So we have about 1,600 member companies that employ over 250,000 Oregonians, but we don't represent just our members. We basically represent every business in Oregon from every sector and every part of the state. It can be challenging at times, but my God, it is fun. And these are the best parts of what we do. I want to just quickly point out Scott Bruin and Rebecca DeBow on our team are here with me. Scott does tax and fiscal policy for the association, and Rebecca is our Vice President for Member Services and Strategic Partnerships. So if you have hard questions, that's why they're here. So I was asked here to talk about what businesses will face in 2023, and I could probably just take the easy way out and say, I don't know. Who the heck knows? I mean, we've tried to predict this cycle after cycle after cycle, and they always manage to come up with some surprises for us. So I don't know entirely what the year's going to bring, but I'll try to give you a few insights from the seat we hold. You can choose whether to believe them or not. Every so often, the Gallup organization does a survey of most trusted professions. And the two at the very bottom on the trust scale are lawyer and lobbyist. I happen to be both. So it's up to you whether you choose to believe anything I have to say. And I wish I had better news for you. I'm an optimist by nature, so I'm going to share some paths forward should the state choose to take them. But, in reality, and I think you don't need me up here to tell you this, 2023 is going to continue to be difficult to navigate for businesses in Oregon. First, I'll take a look a little more nationally and globally. Tom didn't want it to be all about the session, but I will bring it back to what's happening a few blocks away in the Oregon legislature. So first, obviously, inflation is going to continue to be something Oregon businesses face in 2021. While it seems to be getting a little bit better with a 7.1% CPI in the latest numbers compared to the peak of 9.6, it is bad, and you know it better than anybody else. And it is particularly bad when it comes to food and energy. So two things that make businesses go round if you're in food service, hospitality, or anything of that nature. And of course, almost every business relies on energy, whether you're manufacturing something or transporting something or simply just paying rent to someone in an office building. So this is going to continue to be a problem, and it's going to be pervasive. And one of the gaps that we hope to fill at OBI is making sure that legislators understand that, sure, they'll say they don't have control over inflation. It's a global issue, it's a macro issue. But they certainly have control over whether they exacerbate the problem that inflation is causing and what you guys have to wrestle with on a day-to-day basis. So that'll be high on our list of things to watch. Related, federal interest rates. A lot of people get really bored when we talk about federal interest rates, so I will not for very long. You know this, they've gone up dramatically. They are likely to keep going up for the next couple quarters at least. So if you are looking to make capital investments, if you're looking to expand and grow your business and you need investment and support to do that, the rates are going up. Small business loans are tied to this. Business will have to continue to contend with these dual pressures of rising interest rates and inflation. Also, not a secret to you, national security issues are ones we watch. Even for businesses that are hyper-local, the geopolitical issues going on right now are significant, and they are pervasive when it comes to the impact on public policy and our economy. So I won't dwell on that here. It's not my expertise, but just an example. Think about semiconductors. They represent a huge portion of Oregon's economy. But it's not just about the semiconductor industry. Every single one of you relies on semiconductors in your day-to-day lives, both personally and professionally. And when we think about the outsized role that a company like the Taiwanese semiconductor company plays in this space, and the geopolitical forces in that region, it's easy to not remember that that's going to impact businesses on the ground here. So again, part of what we want to try to do at OBI is remind state officials that they can't just brush these off as national or global issues, that these are really significant impacts on your businesses, and they have to be layered into the factors of what can businesses handle, what can businesses absorb, how many pressures can we layer on top of businesses. You may not all agree with this, but the good news is that with a split Congress, we're unlikely to see a lot of federal legislation. Right now, we think that's probably okay. It may result, though, the concern here just is that it may result in an increased amount of activity in the federal administration as the White House seeks to get policies through that it cannot get through Congress. It's going to try to get them through executive rulemaking, executive orders, executive branch agency activity. An example is the NLRB, which has become quite activist in the last year or two, has recently introduced a rule banning all non-compete clauses. No discussion, no contemplation of intellectual property and things of this nature, but just an outright ban. We're probably going to see more activity in the agencies because of the split Congress. So while we might be relieved in one breath, we have to watch the other side of that checks and balances coin. But on the positive side, from a federal standpoint, the recent investments can be helpful to Oregon. The CHIPS Act, the Infrastructure Act, if the state chooses to, and I'll get back to that, if the state chooses to take advantage of these, there is real opportunity for the state of Oregon and the businesses here that drive a number of sectors of the economy, whether it's construction, or manufacturing, energy infrastructure, or the insurance agents and banks and others that support those businesses in their work. There is a lot of federal largesse to go around. The question is whether Oregon is going to do what it can to take advantage of that. The debate on whether that largesse is appropriate is come and gone. Now it's up to Oregon to decide whether it wants to be a player in the national scene to take advantage of that. And that's something we're going to be working on in particular through that semiconductor piece. I want to come back to that. I promise I won't talk about semiconductors the whole time. But you probably heard about the Semiconductor Task Force, which was convened over a long period of time with public-private stakeholders, government stakeholders, educational stakeholders, manufacturing, et cetera. And that task force has set the table for policy and legislation that the state can enact during this session to show the federal government that we are ready to not just reclaim our place as the national leader in this industry, but grow and expand the opportunities that provides. So the competition out there is fierce. TJ mentioned Ohio, Arizona, Nevada, Tennessee, Kentucky, North Carolina, Idaho. These are all states that are actively competing to drive semiconductor activity away. It is the largest piece of our import business and our export business in this state. We cannot afford to let it go, but we will if we don't take action. So interestingly, the legislature has actually created a joint committee on semiconductors. This is the first time in a while we've seen them actually form a committee with the express purpose of potentially expediting legislation to help the private sector. Now, our posture at OBI is that what's good for the goose is good for the gander. We want to make sure that the incentives, the opportunities that they're talking about for semiconductors aren't limited to that industry. We want to see them for all of the industries that we represent. But it's an interesting start to this conversation where there seems to be a little bit of traction and recognition about that premise I mentioned earlier, about the importance of the private sector. So we're anxious to see what unfolds there, but we're also on guard to make sure that they don't just shut things down after they talk about one industry, but they expand it more broadly. Exactly how this session will impact businesses remains to be seen. As a broad business group, and I've mentioned this before, we have several areas of focus for the session because we represent all geographies and all industries. First and foremost, our focus as a team is do no harm. I haven't yet looked at the bills that have been introduced. Scott informed me this morning it's 1,800 so far. I think I've already lost a bet where I was hoping it would be 2,900 total this session. I think 1,800 on day one doesn't bode well for me winning that bet. There will be thousands of bills, and many of them will attempt to impact business. And many of them will have an intended or an unintended consequence around competitiveness. And this is a theme we really drive home at OBI this year a lot, is Oregon's competitiveness. We can no longer sit back and just rest on the fact that we are a great state, a wonderful place to live. Of course, people will just want to flock here. Business will come here because of our culture of innovation. That may have worked for a while. It doesn't work anymore. We are, according to a number of factors, kind of hovering right there in the middle on a lot of areas that measure competitiveness. We just conducted a study, and we can get that to Tom to share with you. We're kind of hovering right there in the middle overall. So we're at an inflection point at a state when it comes to competitiveness. We can be a top half state. We can be a bottom half state. And I think that you guys will probably agree with me it would be better if we were a top half state. We face some challenges, though, with that. I don't mean to sound predictable, but I'm going to start with taxation. A recent study by Ernst & Young showed that Oregon's state business tax burden has increased 45% since 2019. 45% in a handful of years. It's astonishing. Largely, it was driven by the CAT, but it also includes things like the paid family leave tax, hospital and provider taxes, a host of others. It puts our state tax burden ahead of Washington and California, not to mention Idaho. We won't even talk to them. So as I said at the outset, I wish I had, a rosier picture to paint, but you know this, you face this every day in your businesses. We have a host of policy principles that will come before the legislature. We haven't even finished going through them, but just this morning we were already talking about a handful that would expand government programs that were funded with one-time money during the pandemic relief funding. Yet we also hear from lawmakers and the state economist that revenues are flattening off. For the first time, the U.S. Census has noted that Oregon is seeing a decline in population. And we all know that has a direct correlation on taxation and economic development and the revenue pieces, but we have to be mindful of these macro level issues, and for too long the legislators have sort of, not this one, the rest of them have sort of brushed by them. You're welcome. In August, OBI conducted a manufacturing roadshow where Scott and a group of people took a giant bus, 2,000 miles around the state, and went to about 24 stops to highlight the variety of manufacturing industries and educational institutions that support their work. And we heard some very consistent themes that we believe need to be part of the backdrop of this session. We heard about the difficulty with regulatory compliance, not just the scope of the rules, but the complexity of the rules and the difficulty in actually complying with them, and the rapidity with which they change. So we have introduced legislation through some friendly legislators that would look to make simple things like rulemaking needs to be transparent, that maybe the agencies should follow a similar approach to one another in how they go about rulemaking so those who are on the receiving end can figure it out. Maybe rules shouldn't go into effect until the businesses impacted by those rules have been notified by the agency implementing the rule. I don't know, it seemed pretty basic. So we're looking at a number of things in regulatory reform that we can turn to. And again, similar to semiconductors, we're cautiously optimistic because for the first time in a long time, we've actually heard policymakers agree with us when we raise these issues. There's a general frustration with how badly the executive branch does not work in this state. And legislators from both parties, from both ends of the political spectrum, agree with that and are looking to find solutions to help break that logjam. Are we going to get there? We hope so. I don't know. We're going to be cautiously optimistic. Another key issue that we talk a lot about is the interstate bridge. So I know you guys are in Salem, but how many of you yourselves move goods across that bridge, know people who move goods across that bridge, or somehow recognize that that bridge is not just a Portland issue, it's a statewide issue? We like to remind people in Portland often that the people in Eastern Oregon care more about the Port of Portland than the people in Portland do, because they're the ones actually moving goods through the port. But we owe $1 billion to that project as a state, and so we've got to figure out how to fund that. In 2017, a significant transportation package passed, and businesses stepped up and said, okay, we'll be part of the solution. It was a combination of everything from fuel taxes and registration fees and weight mile taxes to new bicycle fees and all kinds of other things to amalgamate the money for the projects identified in that bill. Most of those projects, certainly not finished. Many of those projects, not even started. So we have to have a real conversation in transportation about how we can move forward on the promises that were made 6 years ago, before we step up and say how we're going to fund yet another one. And then we have to have a serious conversation about how we restrict funding so that it can't be swept and actually goes to building a new bridge that will be safe and have increased capacity, not just be a duplicate of the one we have. We also are talking a lot about healthcare, education, a host of these things that have always been tangentially business issues because you need your workforce to be healthy. You need educated workers. But there are issues that are business issues which a handful of years ago wouldn't have been part of the everyday conversation in chambers or associations like ours. Childcare is one of the things we hear most about when we talk to businesses regarding workforce. Housing is another significant workforce issue. These are priorities of the legislature. They've formed committees to focus on them. We don't know what that's going to mean, but we're going to remain, again, cautiously optimistic that we can lead towards solutions in getting these done so we can break the logjam. It's not just about the legislation, though, and I'm blowing past a lot of legislation because I figure you guys can ask questions about things you're most interested in, plus the bills just got dropped today, so we're still trying to figure out exactly what the scope of all the ideas out there is. But it's not just about what happens in that building. One of the trends that we're really concerned about at OBI, and this goes back to the rulemaking piece, is legislators, not this one, have been abdicating their responsibility. Instead of doing the hard work in the state capitol to put the detail and policy into legislation that they pass a thin bill that makes some grand statement towards solving some big problem that we all probably agree might need to be solved. And the details are left to the executive branch agency through the rulemaking process, which is less public. Agency staff are not accountable to people in the same way your elected legislators are. And it's so convoluted and complex, most people stop paying attention. And that's how we end up with rules such as the Climate-Friendly and Equitable Communities rules, which will modify planning in the city of Salem, such that cities and Marion County have actually sued over the implementation of those rules, as have we and a number of trade associations. We have regulations coming out of the DEQ. A rulemaking that isn't done yet, but it would affect Salem, is the employee commute options rule. I don't know how many of you have heard about this one, but it's taking a Portland program and expanding it statewide. So everyone should just relish in that. But there's new rules that are going to be coming out on statewide tolling, on recycling, on product labeling, on recycling mattresses. I mean, you name it. And there's going to be a host of rulemaking coming out. So we have an obligation, as those who are engaged civically and policy associations like ours, to engage in that rulemaking process. I'm going to come back to that in a second, too. So I have not left you with a lot of sunshine and flowers and rainbows, and for that I apologize. But I want to leave you with I want to make a couple calls to action. And I always hate doing that at things like this because you've already heeded the most important call to action, which is being engaged and coming to things like this. Your support of the Salem Chamber is exceptionally important. The Salem Chamber and other local chambers are one of the most effective voices we have in the Capitol, advocating on behalf of businesses and the private sector as a whole. So I want to start by just congratulating you for being a part of this already and encourage you all to bring someone with you to the next one of these events that Tom and his team hold. We as associations rely on that engagement and membership to do what we do. It is grueling work, but it cannot be done without the support of folks like you. So thank you for already stepping up. But I am going to ask that you do a couple more things. First, I'm going to ask that you heed the call from Tom or OBI, for those of you who are OBI members. For those of you who aren't, you'll hear from us later. Just kidding, kind of. You're going to get asked to do things that are sometimes uncomfortable. Make phone calls, send letters, write emails, meet with legislators, go to the Capitol and testify in a public hearing. We need you to heed those calls. We try repeatedly to tell legislators that the reason we get paid to do what we do is because you guys are busy running your businesses. You don't have time to just pick up whenever, wherever, and be at the state capitol at their beck and call. But they need to hear from you. We hear repeatedly that the most effective message deliverers are in fact you all. So I hope that you will heed that call when the time comes. I talked about the rulemaking process, and I know this sounds like the absolute sexiest thing you can do with your spare time. But we are constantly in need of people who can represent business and private sector on rulemaking committees, task forces, et cetera. Sometimes there are dedicated positions for the private sector that we cannot fill because, again, you're busy doing your jobs, and we get that. But we have an obligation to sit at those tables when we can, and sometimes they just don't want it to be an association. It needs to be somebody from an actual business. And so I hope that you will heed those calls when they come as well. And again, we don't have an election for a little while, at least a state level election for a little while, but it never ends. The campaigning begins as soon as the ballots close. And so continue to support good candidates, recruit good candidates, lift those candidates up, encourage them to engage in what is often, again, a grueling and difficult process, a very public-facing, personal process. But we need those folks. You guys make the best candidates. So consider stepping in yourself if you haven't already taken on a role like that. I want to stop there and take questions if there is time, but more than anything, I just want to say, again, we don't know exactly what lies ahead for business in 2023. What I do know is that my team and I, Tom and his team, have the privilege of representing you every day in the state capitol, and it's an honor to do that. We will do our best to fight off those things that are going to make your lives more difficult. We will do our best to advocate for the things that will make your lives easier. But more than anything, thank you for how you've navigated these last few years, and thank you for doing what you do despite what you face in the coming months. Yeah. Do you have time for questions?
All right, any questions?
Sweet. Good.
Mike's got a question. Mike, no?
Good. Well, we know our office is in Salem, so we are a part of this community as well. We are a blue building just east of the Capitol on Court Street. So if you are down in that neighborhood and want to stop in, please do. Again, we look forward to working closely with Tom and others at the State Chamber of Commerce Network. Thank you. Again, that's all I can close with.
And I can tell you those calls may come. I know that this organization and our board wants to take on these issues, and we're going to need everyone in this room and others to be present and let those legislators hear from us. Wonderful work by presenter Angela Wihelms again, and we have some tremendous big events coming up in the near future. First one coming up here in 11 days on Friday night, January 20th, we will see the return of the annual Safe Agribusiness Banquet presented by Key Bank. This year's keynote is Derek Josie, a fourth-generation dairy farmer and author of An Industry Worth Fighting For. Josie is a founder of TDF Honest Farming, a brand that represents the authentic day-to-day lifestyle of farming today. With almost 1 million followers combined across multiple social media platforms, his TDF Honest Farming videos reach around 218 million people in 2021 alone. So please register for your seat at salemchamber.org. And then in February, we are more than honored and humbled to bring back the annual recognition of excellence in public and private education. On Friday, February 10th, at the here at the Salem Convention Center, we will recognize recipients of the Crystal Apple Awards. Thank you to Mountain West Investment Corporation, MAPS Credit Union for making this event possible. We already have up to 600 tickets sold. So this event will sell out, so please go on salemchamber.org and purchase those tickets. We also want to say thank you again to Miss Jasmine Mendoza for an excellent national anthem today. We also want to wish to recognize our partners at Allied Video Productions, Capital Community Media, and the Salem Convention Center, who each showcase their talents and atmosphere monthly at our forum luncheons. To our Salem Chamber ambassadors in their Navy logoed chamber jackets, today's ambassadors were Grayson Matthews-Eames, Ryan Tribbett, and this guy Zach Stone. I mean, he just runs around town with a camera. You've probably seen him several times. We thank you for your work in welcoming our members to each of our events and programs. Your hospitality is greatly appreciated. Also to TJ Sullivan, Chris McLaren, and the entire family at Hagen Hamilton Insurance. It's exciting to have Hagen Hamilton presence here in Salem, and we look forward to their growth here in our community. At this time, a little ad here, I want to bring in Tom. He's got some updates on an initiative we've been working on pretty hard here at the Chamber, commercial air service.
Thank you, President-elect Rasmussen. Tonight is a big moment in front of City Council. Our City Council will be asked to create some initial funding that will create some inertia at our local airport, and the Fly Salem campaign has worked incredibly hard to bring an airline into our city to relaunch in a first series of flights commercial air service back in Salem. Many of you in the audience, I hope, are very excited about that. It's a huge economic generator for us long term. Although at the start, anytime you roll out a new initiative like this, there are some financial commitments that a city has to make to get this sparked and off the ground. Imagine us as a city in the next 3 to 5 years having commercial air service traveling all over the nation. That is what we hope to have provided for us. And tonight, we have an opportunity, myself, Angie Onjawuchi from Travel Salem, and others will be testifying in front of City Council as to why this effort will be positive economically for our region. On the flip side, we have an adversary in this realm by the name of 350.org, who is a local environmental group, We've worked with some of these members on some key things in the past, and air service is not an area we can come to some common ground on. We feel very strongly that the amount of cars being reduced, driving up to the Portland market to fly out of PDX, the drive time, the amount of money you pay in parking and the like, we could keep a lot of those dollars locally here. For those of us in the hospitality industry, it's about having hotel rooms filled as people do conferences in our city and choose to go explore our wine countries surrounding us. But they will be there in force. In fact, they plan to pack the entire room with their supporters, and they have been so bold to print stickers with a line through Fly Salem. I'm okay with that. It takes everybody coming together with different opinions. But this organization, the Salem Chamber, we stand for economic vitality. If you'd like to join us tonight and be present in person, it'd be nice for us to have a few of your bodies there. If you are so inclined to write a letter to our city council encouraging their support, that would be well received. But know that this organization, in the face of many opponents staring at us this morning, will stand proud for what we believe in securing a strong economic ecosystem for our city. We'd love to have your support and invite you to be there in person or watch online. We are back into in-person at Salem City Council, 6 p.m. And like Angela mentioned, we'll be front and center at legislature as well. It is very challenging in the small business community to imagine pulling time away. So when we do ask maybe 1-2 times a session to share your opinion, know how easy it is to just simply write a letter and click send to your legislative officials, and how much it helps leaders like my peer Angela and I as we go out to try and fight some of these things that are going to affect your businesses. Salem City Council chambers tonight at 6 o'clock. We hope for your support. And if not there in person, urge us on, because we can make commercial air service a reality for our residents again, and we strongly believe it will have a terrific impact on our community. Let's close today by giving away our Ross Fresh Markets bouquet. Thank you to Ross for their support. Dean DeSantis. Dean, it's great to see you. DeSantis Landscape. Make sure to come up and grab this as you go. Ladies and gentlemen, we will see you next month, February 9th, for our next forum luncheon. Speakers up here, if you'd hang around for a quick photo, we'd appreciate it. Have a great afternoon, everyone. Thank you for being here, and thank you to Hagen Hamilton Insurance Solutions.